Call the Brooklyn City Council meeting to order. Mary Jo, can you please call the roll?
Meg Ryan Shaki. Here. Andy Selhertz.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Belbeer.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Barb Politzky.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
Here. Before we get started this evening, we do need to vote to amend the agenda. We are going to move the economic development report to immediately following the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a guest here tonight that also with Mr. Udris, so I'll make the motion that we move the economic development report following the Pledge of Allegiance and the opening prayer.
Second.
To amend the agenda, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. Also, it says public session on here twice. The public session will actually come after the mayor's proclamation and recognition. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Following the Pledge of Allegiance, please remain standing for prayer by Councilwoman Pucci. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, as we begin this evening, we ask that you would guide us so that our meeting is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Help us to accomplish our goals while displaying good character. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Okay, this being our first meeting back from the summer, we do have several items to approve as far as approval of minutes. The first one is for the meeting dated June the 25th. Oh, you know what? I just said we're going to change the order, and then I didn't change the order. All right. At this time, I'll recognize Andy Udris, our Economic Development Director, for his report.
Mr. Chairman, my report has to deal with information.
Microphone.
We'll get the mic. Mr. Butler's getting the mic for you. So.
Glad I'm a sound man. Regarding the purposes of Ordinance 20-18-76, which is up for second reading today, declaring
2018-67.
I'm sorry, 2018-67, which declares an improvement of certain real property to be a public purpose pursuant to revised code 5709.40B. Declaring such improvement to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that will directly benefit such property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, designating municipal public improvement tax increment and value equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments, and authorizing compensation payments to the Brooklyn City School District. The purpose of this ordinance is to allow us to create a TIF financing district. TIF stands for tax increment financing, and in the ordinance package you'll see this exhibit, which is Exhibit 1, which is the redlined areas, which is predominantly the main areas that are in the former American Greetings redevelopment area. The purpose of the ordinance allows us to take the incremental increase in the new taxes that will be created out of this project and allowed us to make those tax payments that would be made on those improvements to go in a specific fund. This fund then would be used to pay for public improvements and also reimburse not only the school district but also the Polaris district for taxes that they would have normally received. It is allowed for new development or redevelopment. It temporarily redirects normal recipients and toward payment of costs of public improvements that would benefit the development and the public. Typically, this infrastructure for this particular project is the roadway that we are building from the railroad tracks heading north to allow better access for trucks and employees to get into the property now that it's a multi-tenant location. The increment is the increase in real estate taxes resulting from development over and above the value prior to the date of the development. The taxes currently are going to be frozen if this law is approved, and so the taxes that are currently being paid on the property will go to the existing taxing districts. That won't change. But if any new improvement values, for instance, all the investment that they're making in the new office space and in the new warehousing buildings and manufacturing space, those will hopefully increase the value of the property, and that increase will have a tax value and additional tax payments. Those payments would be made as service payments and would then go into the special fund and be used to pay for the roadway. They would not go to the county, they would not go to the city, they would not go to Metro Park, they would not go to the Port Authority, they would not go to the library district, which is where currently they would go. At the end of the TIF period, which is 30 years, then the funds would go back to those original taxing agencies. This method of financing is used throughout the state of Ohio. It is particularly used for new development activities. We have the opportunity here to use it for redevelopments because there's so much improvement needed as part of the projects. This fund may not pay for all the improvements that we're proposing, but it'll significantly go towards paying for the $1.8 million that we're currently committing to. The state of Ohio has also committed $450,000 towards this project. So our hope is that the tax increment can be used to pay off a portion of that fund. There were questions that if the taxes do increase, for instance, if the school board were to increase a tax levy and then that would pass, that incremental payment would also then be received by the schools. It would not go towards the public improvements. So are there any questions regarding
And the main question that was asked during the finance meeting, I know obviously most of the public wasn't in there, is that the schools will be made whole throughout this program, regardless of whether there's increases in the levy or if they stay the same. The school will not be out any of this money. None of this money will go to pay for, the school money will go to pay for this project.
That is correct.
Thank you. Anyone else on council have any questions for Mr. Udrith regarding this?
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Udrith. I appreciate it. Okay, next up on our agenda is the approval of minutes. We have several of them. The first one is from our final regularly scheduled meeting before the summer break, and that was from June the 25th. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. The next three were from special meetings that were held throughout the summer, and I'll talk more about those in a minute. But the first meeting is from July the 2nd, 2018. Any comments or questions? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
To approve, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. The next one is from the meeting dated July the 23rd, 2018. Any comments or questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. And the final one is from August 27th, 2018. Any comments or questions? I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
To approve, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. At this time, the mayor has a proclamation she'd like to make, as well as make a recognition. So I will turn it over to the mayor at this time.
Thank you, Council President Van Kirk. Well, I have two special things to do tonight. First is a proclamation for one of my former fellow colleagues from the Planning Commission. So Joe Polidori, will you come up and bring whatever family member you'd like? Yeah, I know, it's such a big crowd. I didn't want to limit you. So many of you probably already know Joe Polidori. Besides being on the Planning Commission since December 28th, 2009, he's done a ton of things for this community. So I just first want to thank you for being so involved and really help developing Brooklyn into what it is today. Some of the projects that he's worked on in the Planning Commission, they really have been endless, but recent things, the Menards project, Brooklyn Point, Ryder Truck, LA Fitness, the Walmart expansion, and the school addition. These are just some of the big things that he had to go through the documents, comb through, and he's constantly looking for ways, and I can attest to this because I've worked with Joe for years, what's in the best interest of the city by passing these documents, and what's in the best interest of the residents. Always thinking about those questions when we meet with these developers to ask them specific nitty-gritty information. So thank you, Joe, for all the time that you've dedicated to the city of Brooklyn. This is a huge time commitment, and he does not get paid to do this. This is purely for the benefit of Brooklyn. So I want to thank you, and I want everybody to recognize all of his efforts. So thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to say it was an honor to serve this great city.
Well, appreciate it. The other reason I'm up here is I'd like to recognize 3 tremendous kids back there. If you guys want to come up, Matthew Bennett, Josiah Trank, and Gideon Trank, if you want to come up with your parents. And before I talk about why these tremendous kids are here, I just want to acknowledge what great kids you are. I look back and I tell you that my daughter would not be that well behaved sitting back there in this meeting. So we also invited some of their favorite police officers. In a second you'll understand why. Officer Dan Meadows, Brad Washburn, and Mario Spumuli. Also one of their favorite officers is Phil Bungo, but he had a prior commitment so he can't make it. So you guys probably recognize these kids, right? You've seen them on the news. They've been covered by every news outlet in this, I think, entire county for multiple occasions. These are the tremendous kids that raised over $5,000 for the fallen officer Vu in the city of Cleveland. And they took time from their summer to do a lemonade stand and to raise this money because they knew this officer needed. On top of that, they raised money for the Sea of Blue, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go towards the officers. So we just want to recognize them because these are tremendous kids, and I think that we have a responsibility in this community to honor kids that take their time out, because you hear so many bad things, but there are tremendous kids out there. So thank you for all you've done, and we appreciate all of your efforts, okay guys?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to, I'm glad that we're recognizing the boys for their accomplishments. I've had the pleasure, as well as some of my colleagues, of meeting them over the years, and their parents have raised some fine gentlemen. Again, a round of applause for our friends here.
Good news, you don't have to stay for the meeting. TV time.
Thank you guys very much. That's awesome work. I want to echo Mrs. Gallagher's sentiments to Mr. Palladori. He's probably one of the most kind men that I've had the privilege of working with very briefly, so congratulations, sir. And also these young men, kudos to their parents for instilling this into their children. There's a lot of negative press today on our police officers, so I give a lot of kudos to the parents for that good work, and obviously to the guys as well. So thank you everyone for that. Good knows the Palladori family doesn't have to stay for the meeting either. And I think Mr. Maggery's smiling bigger than the rest of them because he knows. All right, as I mentioned a second ago, council did meet 3 times over the summer, and I'm going to talk just very briefly and give a broad overview of the legislation that was adopted. All of this information is available out on the city's website, and so I'm not going to read through all of the details, but I will just kind of hit some of the highlights of the legislation that was passed while we were technically in recess. On July the 2nd, there were 3 ordinances that were adopted. The first was 2018-58, which authorized the purchase of property at 4761 Tiedemann Road by the city. The next was ordinance 2018-59, and this was in regards to the small cell phone nodes that you see around the state. A lawsuit came out and it was rectified, so we had to adjust our ordinances accordingly. And then lastly was ordinance 2018-62, and this authorized the sale in purchase of City of Brooklyn Land Bank property at 6807 Ira Avenue. And in this, we were able to partner with Habitat for Humanity. This is one of the homes that we partner with them on this, and so we had the privilege of doing that. And then on July the 23rd, we met as well, And at this time, I am pleased to announce officially at our first regularly scheduled meeting that a new finance director was hired. And I know I'm going to say this wrong, but Tom Raguse.
Yes.
I said it correctly. Yeah, very good. And so he was officially confirmed at that meeting. And so we already said welcome, but officially on camera for the whole city, welcome. We're glad to have you here. And so he joined us on effective July 23rd when he was confirmed. Also in that same meeting, we did adopt 2 pieces of legislation. The first is 2018-63, and it just updated some recreation department programs at the rec center. And then lastly in that meeting was ordinance 2018-64, and this was assessing some of the unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations, again, according to Brooklyn Code. Then our final special meeting was held on August the 27th, and at that meeting we conferred the replacement of Mr. Palladori, and Stephen Cole agreed to come on as the Planning Commission member to finish out Mr. Palladori's term. And then there were 4 ordinances that were adopted at this meeting. Ordinance 2018-68, and this authorized the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission to begin the update of our master plan. And so that was adopted. And then ordinances 2018-69, 70, and 71 were also adopted, and those all have to do with the American Road Paving Project and the project that Mr. Udris talked about just a moment ago. So that kind of catches you up in a whirlwind of what council was doing this summer. And hopefully everyone did enjoy their summer. It was a very hot one. I think that is over. All right, but we shall see. So I did want to welcome everyone back officially. At this time, we will have the public session. If anyone in the audience is in this day for the good and well for the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer.
Hi, my name's Guy Rigling, 9206 Outlook Drive. We're getting our gas lines replaced now, and we really haven't been informed, or maybe I haven't really looked that well, but they're telling us that they're going to put the gas meters outside the homes now, which would involve digging up the hedges and stuff in the front yard. And I can handle that because my bushes I just put in maybe 3 months ago. I redid the whole front. I can dig mine out by hand and move them while the work's being done. But the problem for me is the sidewalks that are being destroyed. Not a good speaker. The broken ones I know will be replaced, but there's other ones where they've run the heavy equipment over and they're uneven by like an inch, you know, like up and down. Are those going to be fixed too? Do you have any information on that?
They're uneven because of the equipment?
Yeah.
Okay. We have an inspector daily out watching everything, and those, I'm sorry, I just took over the meeting. And we have an inspector watching these things daily, and that's what we use to catch those type of things so they can come back and fix those issues.
Okay. So if I see...
So if you see they have corrected some sidewalk and they have not corrected the one that you've seen.
Well, they haven't finished the job yet.
Yeah.
Just call the city if they finish it. Yeah, just
call the city and we'll make sure that they take care of it.
Okay, and like my neighbor across the street's got some pretty huge bushes, and they're probably going to get dug out. I don't think there's any way to save those, and they were wondering if there's any compensation for things like that get destroyed, or they just have to live with that.
Dave?
Recognized?
Yes.
Okay, I'd probably help a little bit here. You should have received a letter with numbers that you can call. Their specific number, and if you want, just give the building department a call tomorrow, and I can give you that information. You can talk to them direct. They're supposed to take care of landscaping and everything, so they'll work with you one-on-one.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
First of all, I say good evening, council. My name is Edward Slavic, 9304 Outlook Drive, a couple houses from the gentleman here. Having the same problems. You guys just paved Outlook 2 years ago, I think, approximately 2 years ago. The new driveways that they're putting in there, as they're going along, pumping these sidewalks up, all that stuff is popping up. I got a 2-inch gap that I talked to the gentleman from Dominion Gas who's in charge of these guys, said to take a couple pictures of it, which me and my wife did, and he took a couple pictures of it also. And as they're running these things, they're popping up left and right. And I asked them, is there any possible way that the city is going to redo these, or are they going to leave them like that, or are they going to just put a little crease of cement over it to keep them flush? That was brand new, put in there by you guys, the city, I think 3 years ago. That thing popped up 2.5 inches off of my driveway. I considered talking to the guy. He gave me a little thing, but as my neighbor Guy says, I never got any kind of letter either. Any kind of information that you guys are coming through doing this stuff. 7 o'clock this morning, guy pounds on my door. Tells me I need to move my vehicles out of the driveway. I said, excuse me? He said, I'm running some stuff here, and if I run it, you're going to be stuck in the driveway. First of all, I gave him a little, I never got any kind of notification. You know, you guys got a better job of getting notifications out there to us, letting us know. Because in that instance, that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when you guys had that done out there, I had talked to the safety director, direct on the phone. The gentleman told me to either leave your car in the driveway and take a bus, or park it on the street. I'm not going to take a bus, so I parked it on the street. My window got busted out. I called him back the next day. He said it ain't the city's problem. I said, okay, I'll deal with that situation. But as you guys go along now, putting these gas lines in, my driveway's getting tore up, which was brand new, put in by you guys at the 3-4 years ago. My gas meter's right inside of my house. The gentleman told me from East Ohio that they're going to contract plumbers out that's going to be doing this job, they're removing these meters to bring them on the outside. He asked me if I had a finished basement. I said, yes sir, I do. He kind of like, grinched. I considered to him, what was, that for? And he's like, well, because first of all, we need to get inside. And if they do any damage, he's more or less like, we don't know when we can come back and fix it. I said, well, then I'm kind of like hesitant and letting anybody in my house that's going to tear my house apart, which I just had $2,500 done to refinish it, if they're not going to be accurate and doing it right away. I would like it done right away if they're going to tear it apart, but if they linger on, he said, I don't know. He told me directly that would be up to the city, because I think the city's going to be directing out the plumbers who do this. I think he said something like Trinidad Plumbing or something like that, he might have said.
No, this is an entire Dominion project. And I'm glad you came up here to speak, because I feel like there's issues as well. Specifically, I just spent a few days at a retreat with the Vice President of Dominion, and he thinks everything is hunky-dory with this project, and I advised him otherwise. They said they've made an effort to try to match up, well, the city has done the streets with these projects, and that's not true, even when we have attempted to do that. So I am trying to gather a list, and he's going to come out here directly and make sure that everything is handled. So if you wouldn't mind either calling Dave tomorrow in the building department, giving your name, your information, or leaving it with him right now, we'll make sure things are handled. Everything is supposed to go back to the way that they found it.
Man, when he explained it to me that he was only in control of these guys here now, I think it's 1101, I think it is, and he said that you guys are subcontracting the plumbers that come out to remove
this
it.
This isn't the city of Brooklyn.
I'm just saying what he referred me to, because he gave me a little piece of a pink pamphlet and said, if you have any problems, there's my number on there, and if you have any other issues, you need to call City Hall. It's like, okay, I'm going to deal with it one way or another, I understand, but the thing of it is that if we don't get notices like this.
You should have gotten a notice. And we've done a construction meeting with them, and they advised that everyone got notices. So if you didn't.
No, ma'am, I didn't. I left 2 doors from him. He did not receive one. I did not receive one. I don't know if the rest of the block received any, but, I try to, be calm with the gentleman. Then he got a little overexcited saying, he's like, well, we're not doing any of that. That's with the city. I got these guys here doing these gas lines. I don't have nothing to do with that meter coming out and putting it out of your house.
The last thing I want to do is get the he said, she said thing here. But as the mayor just mentioned, if you would, please, you've already inconvenienced yourself by coming up here. And if you came up to speak, your neighbor came up to speak, I guarantee you there's 20 more people that have the same issues. If you could just leave your information with Mr. Kolsar, I assure you he will contact the correct people and we'll get back to you with an answer.
Okay.
And if he doesn't, by the next meeting, you can come back up here and yell at me. This one. All right, Mr. Colsar, right there.
Witnesses, right?
Right there. I didn't hear anything. So, all right, but thank you for coming up. If you could leave that for, that'd be great.
Slavic Edward.
But anyone else have anything for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn?
216-661.
All right, very good. We will now move on with reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We will begin this evening with our Domestic Abuse Commission, and our representative is Councilwoman Ryan Shockey.
Good evening, thank you. The Domestic Abuse Commission had a break over summer, but we started back up last week Thursday, September 6th. We discussed partnering with Love Doesn't Shove for a discussion at our middle school or high school about healthy relationships. We also discussed current news in domestic abuse. The Violence Against Women Act, it's a national bill, will expire at the end of this month if action is not taken by Congress. This bill was the first comprehensive federal legislation package designated to end violence against women. Since the passage of the act in 1994, there has been a shift in how the issues of violence against women is addressed. There was also a lot of attention on social media this summer. I know I saw it several times on my Facebook page about a woman and her 2 kids who were murdered by her husband. The article focused on how social media does not always tell the whole story and how people can display positives when posting about their lives. Finally, we discussed having a fundraiser in October, which is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. Stay tuned for updates on how you can participate in this citywide fundraiser. And that ends my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is our Board of Zoning Appeals, and since I put myself in the line from Commissioner Colsar, right? Commissioner Colsar.
Thank you, Mr. Mathcart. Recap, the last couple months of Zoning Board of Appeals meetings. July meeting was canceled, no applications that month. August 16th, there was a meeting, 6 p.m. here in the City Hall Conference Room. Heard a request from Charles Whittle Jr. for a 72 square foot variance to construct a 672 square foot detached garage at 6104 Delora Avenue. And a second request from Mr. Whittle was for a 4% variance to the allowable area that may be covered by an accessory structure in our rear yard, where there's a 20% maximum, also at 6104 Delora. The meeting coming up September 20th has also been canceled. Did not receive applications for that one. And that completes my report.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We'll now move on with Planning Commission. We did meet throughout the summer. We did meet in August, and there was just one item on the agenda. That was a request from Antonio Andino for an awning sign for headquarters at 4328 Ridge Road. And this was passed with no objections. In the September meeting, we had several items. That was just last week that we met. And the first was a request from St. Thomas More for final site plan review for the new entrance and driveway and parking at 4180 North Amber. The next was a request from Kelly Zielinski of Spirit Halloween for a banner sign for temporary business at 4790 Ridge Road. And then a request from Christopher Samarjan for Cleveland American LLC and Holdings Cleveland American LLC for a lot split consolidation of American Road. I apologize, there's a bunch of parcels, but I'm going to read them for the record. 431-06-006, 43106-007, 43106-009, 43201-002, 43202-001, 43202-004, 43202-006, 43202-008, 43204-002, and 43206-006. They're consolidating several of the plots over at the former American Greetings property. Then a request from Construction Resource One for site approval for a new parking area for Rhino Systems at 1 American Road. And of course, residents know that this is a new business that's going to be going in over at the American Greetings property. Then next was a request from Construction Resource One for site approval for the demolition of a 12,000 square foot building to provide parking for Medical Mutual at 1 American Road. Then lastly was a request from Construction Resource One for site approval for a parking lot lighting for that parking lot. And all of the items on the September agenda were approved. Normally there's a break from me talking, but there's no other reports before the finance report. So I'll just go ahead and give that at this time. On the agenda for this evening, we have an authorization for a wall purchase installation sign, monument sign. It's going to be at the Bidoff and Tiedemann turnaround for a total cost of $18,040. Up for third reading and adoption this evening is ordinance 2018-65. This authorizes the mayor to enter into a new member participation agreement with Chagrin Valley Dispatch Council and authorizing the city to become a member of such council. If this is authorized this evening, the contract will begin on August the 1st of 2019 at a rate of $40,915.83 per month, or an annual cost of $490,990. As part of this agreement, there is a one-time facilities and equipment fee of $288,153.71. That fee will be divided by 3 and will be paid over 3 years, with payments on August the 1st of 2019, 2020, and 2021 at an annual payment of $96,051.24. Mr. Udris already talked about the ordinance 2018-67, so I will skip over that one. Under new business this evening is resolution 2018-6. This is accepting the rates and the amounts as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. This is more of a housekeeping legislation that deals with the city's tax levies that we have to adopt every year. Also on first reading this evening was ordinance 2018-73. This is authorizing the purchase of one 2019 Labrie drop frame body with helping hand automated arm. We affectionately call it the one-arm bandit, the garbage trucks here in the city of Brooklyn. We've been having some issues actually with both of our vehicles, and we anticipated purchasing this vehicle as part of the 2019 budget. And since these vehicles take 9 to 12 months for them to complete the order, we would like to actually place the order in 2018 for payment in 2019 so we can actually receive the item in 2019. And that purchase amount is $295,670. Then lastly was ordinance 2018-75. And this is to amend the job retention and creation grant agreement with Inogen Incorporated. We had an agreement with them already that was approved for 240 jobs at a total agreement amount of $123,000 paid at 30%, 20%, 10% over 3 years. Well, the good news is that Inogen is expanding more rapidly than even they anticipated. Instead of having 240 jobs, they estimate that to go up to a total of 500 jobs. And so an additional 260 jobs. So if this is adopted, that would increase their grant agreement rate instead of $123,000 to $232,500, and they would fulfill those jobs within 3 years. Right, Mr. Udris, did I hit everything with that? Very good. Okay, and that was the finance committee the finance report for this evening. We do meet every regularly scheduled council meeting prior to it at 6:30. This evening we did meet at 6:15 because we had a bit of a longer agenda. Okay, at this time we'll now move on with reports of council, and I'll begin this evening with Ms. Meg Ryan Shockey.
Good evening again. First, I want to officially welcome Tom to our city as the finance director. And then just a quick note, a big congratulations goes to Joe Polidori and the 3 young boys that were recognized tonight. Last week, I attended a Cuyahoga Greenways presentation, which talked about their plan to connect walking and biking trails throughout Cuyahoga County. The initiative is through the collaboration of the Cleveland Metro Parks, the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, and NOACA, which is the regional planning organization in Northeast Ohio. As with any master initiative, it is important to continue to get resident stakeholder input throughout the process, which they have promised to do. I was glad to see that our city is listed as part of 2 critical connection routes for the future of the county. With Brooklyn's master plan team beginning to form, I think it is this will be an important part of our regional planning thoughts for the city of Brooklyn. And then just a quick note, I know it's early, but November 6th is the general election for 2018. Some important dates to remember include October 9th, which is the last day to register to vote or change voter registration information to vote in this election. October 10th starts absentee voting. And I know my husband and I received our application for the absentee ballot. So if you didn't get one, be sure to check if your voter registration is up to date. You can do that on the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections website. There will be many important issues and candidates on the ballot this year, so please register and cast your vote this fall. That ends my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Mr. Sellards.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Hello, everyone. Hope there was a safe and enjoyable summer for all. A few items to discuss tonight. Thank you to Mr. Verba, and especially Mr. Bruzak and Mr. Marty Rinne for working on to clear away the overgrown tree branches at the Memphis Road underpass on the Brooklyn side when coming in from Lindale. With them trimming back the branches, the streetlight has become effective again that was covered over by them. Thank you to the Service Department for also clearing up the excess vegetation growth at the Clinton Road underpass by Aero International. In regards to the Memphis Road Avenue underpass, I'm still working on to get the lighting there that has not been existent for many years. It started while I was on City Council a few years ago, but no one really continued to progress on it. At this time, we do have numbers on what the fixtures were cost and just trying to put into a big scheme of how to fix up that whole area. Thank you to Police Chief Scott Melke and his staff for taking care of issues over the summer in regards to speeders in certain neighborhoods residents have complained about, as well as other complaints about other activities in those neighborhoods and also commercial enterprises. In a little less than 2 weeks, there will be the annual Schoenpike Shop hosted by the Brooklyn Historical Society. The Historical Society will be open for touring and will also have items for sale made by members in addition to their herb bread. Hours will be Saturday, September 22nd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Sunday, September 23rd from noon to 3 p.m. Next door at the Dr. Martin Luther Church, they will be selling lunches consisting of hot dogs and brats from 11:30 to 2:30 p.m. on both Saturday and Sunday. There is the chance that pierogies will also be made available for carryout. Continuing next door at the library, Friends of the Brooklyn Library will be sponsoring a book bag sale where you can buy books by the bag for only $3. Hours for the sale will be the library hours, which are on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Sunday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Back at the library also, there will be a 4-week series called Chair Yoga. Registration is required. It's designed for those with physical limitations or those who don't feel that they can keep up in a regular class. Classes are Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. from September 26th through October 17th. Fall Fest will be on Saturday, September 29th, 2018. Had a request by Barb Stepek looking for volunteers for contestants for the chili and fall dessert contest. She still needs more people to get entered. She only has a few in both of those categories. On tonight's legislation, I would ask for the rest of the City Council to vote and approve Ordinance 2018-73 regarding the purchase of one 2019 Labrie one-armed refuse vehicle in the amount of $295,670. As Mr. Van Kirk mentioned, it was not in this year's budget, but it was planned on the 2019 budget. The reasons I'm asking for this to be approved is the following. Once it is ordered, the vehicle, as mentioned before, will take 9 to 12 months to be built and delivered. So the earliest we could expect it would be the summer of 2019 or possibly September of 2019. The oldest one, which is used for refuse, has been out for approximately 6 weeks this summer. The other one, which is used for recycling, just went out of service today for at least 1, 2, 3 days, who knows how much longer. They do have a smaller one that's used for the Brooklyn Acres and small areas where the big vehicles can't get in, but that's only one vehicle, and if it has to do its route plus try to fill in for another, it's not possible. So when this happens, we're going back from 1-person operation to 3 men on a truck, and with a limited workforce, that kind of puts us back, going backwards instead of moving forwards. Also, this past Friday on September 7th, I attended the Northeast Ohio Litter Summit held at the Lorain County Transportation Center. A variety of subjects were covered, including a speech by keynote speaker Dr. Marcus Erickson on plastics in our waters. Other things covered were litter abatement best management practices presented by ODOT's District Administrator Doug Groover, panel discussion on engaging law enforcement, prosecutors, judges on litter laws and illegal and open dumping, and breakdown sessions on community engagement, tools for teaching litter awareness, and reducing single-use products. As part of the steering committee, I was able to get some input into the programs as how it pertains to Brooklyn. Much emphasis was placed in this seminar on beautifying beaches, waterways, but none was on how to keep the roads and interstates to get there clean as well. Simple thing, first impressions. Better yet, an example would be the trash at Bridge and 480. Not all of it is Brooklyn, but do visitors and maybe even some of the residents know where the city starts and stops? So we're working on to get that worked, trying to get that situation cleared up between ODOT, Cleveland, and it's going to be a continuing progress, work in progress. I have talked with Andy Udris, our Economic Development Director, and also Dr. Gleikoff about the possibility of using some of the soil from the dirt pile by Rodone Elementary School to be used as backfill, if possible, for several of the homes that were the city owns once they are demolished. And also, warm welcome to Tom as our new finance director. I had the opportunity to talk with him for an hour or two a few weeks ago, and it was very educational for both of us and quite enjoyable. So welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Mrs. Pucci.
Good evening. I too would like to welcome Mr. Raguse to the City of Brooklyn. I look forward to getting together with you and also working with you. So welcome. Last week I sat down with the school superintendent, Mark Gleikoff, and the school treasurer, Mr. John Street. I'd like to thank them for their time. I'm sure most of us have already heard that the schools will have an operating levy on the ballot in November. I had an opportunity to review and discuss their current financial situation and also go over their current 5-year forecast. So there will be more information getting out to the public. I would just encourage, once the information starts getting out, that if you do have any questions or concerns, to please make sure you go right to the official sources, which would be our school superintendent, the treasurer, or one of your elected school board members. Another school-related update, I served on the strategic planning committee for the schools. Just a little progress report. We're currently reviewing the draft. We will be scheduling another meeting to finalize the plan, so there will be more information coming out on that. Let's see. Mr. Selhert's already mentioned the Shunpike shop, so I don't want to be redundant, but I would encourage residents to attend. There truly is something for everyone, and especially if you've never been to the museum at the Historical Society, it's a very good opportunity for you to go and see. You will be amazed at what they have over there. I would like to congratulate Mr. Polidori and thank him for his service to the City of Brooklyn. I also had the privilege of serving with Mr. Polidori on the Planning Commission, and it was also a good opportunity to get to know him a little better. I had, known him, but serving on the committee, we had an opportunity to have a lot of good discussions on things, not just at the meetings, but also, at other points in time. Mr. Polidori is a very good example of a citizen who was willing to serve and make positive contributions for the betterment of our community. So again, I thank him for his service and wish him well. I would also like to congratulate the young people who were honored here this evening, Matthew, Josiah, and Gideon. What a wonderful example for other young people in our community to dedicate your time and effort for the benefit of others. Our entire community is very proud of their efforts, and thank you to the officers who also attended with them this evening. I'm sure it meant a lot to them. Regarding the Dominion, I'm sure we're keeping a track of all the issues, because there's been some other things before this, how the stones were dumped in somebody's yard without any notice, so we're keeping a good list. Yes?
Well, it's short as of yet.
Okay.
Yes, we'll be on it.
Okay, thank you. And tomorrow is the anniversary of 9/11, and hopefully we'll all have an opportunity to take the time to remember the victims and their families. Over the summer, I had an opportunity to visit the 9/11 museum. I had been to the memorial before, but when I was there, the museum was not open yet. I would encourage anyone, if you get the opportunity to go, they have really done a remarkable job, and it's very impactful. The museum is actually located underground, under where the two towers were, and it is just very remarkable what they've done. So I would encourage you, if you ever get an opportunity, it is well worth the visit. And I believe that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Next up is Mrs. Balbier.
Thank you. Well, it's nice to be back. I look forward to a busy year. I'd like to thank Mr. Polidorio for all his dedication to our city. He's been a long-time resident. He is one man that you can actually say is the backbone of the city. He's been a businessman. He raised his family here, educated his children, his grandchildren here in the Brooklyn school system, and just a wonderful, wonderful man and a wonderful family. He is the father-in-law of Joe Magri. And if you know Joe, I mean, Joe is impeccable and brilliant and just a very successful businessman. And I'm going to truly be sorry to see Mr. Polidorio leave. And thanks also to those young men, the Tanks and the Tank family and the Bennett family. Boy, that's a great example of service to others. Young men that you take at this young age and have a desire to help others, especially policemen. Who knows, maybe one of them may end up growing up and being a policeman. Thirdly, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to the Dominic Violini family. They were neighbors of mine, and both Marge and Dominic passed away this past summer. They were married 71 years, and they were truly a wonderful, wonderful couple. They loved Brooklyn. Their grass was impeccable. Their house was impeccable. They were wonderful cooks. They loved Brooklyn so much. They educated their children here. They had 2 daughters, and I was sorry to hear that they passed away so fast. Dominic died on July 4th, and then a couple months later, his wife died Labor Day weekend. So if you know the Violinis or the D'Ambrosios, extend your condolences to them, because they were just wonderful, wonderful people. I'd like to thank Kathy Pucci for reminding everyone about September 11th. With our busy schedules and everything else we're doing, sometimes it's easy to forget, but we must never forget what happened. And maybe tomorrow we can keep all the victims and all the service people that were hurt and killed in our prayers. I'd also like to remind everybody, the seniors especially, for the snow removal. Don't forget, it starts September 12th and it goes through the 28th. You don't want to be left out. And that pretty much concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Balbier. Next up is Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. Just want to thank Joe Polidori for his long-term service for the city. Also want to thank and congratulate the boys, Matthew, Gideon, and Josiah, I think that's how you pronounce it, on their great effort in their fundraising. Job well done. I want to welcome Tom Ragoose. If I cut your name up, I get it right.
Either one works.
To his first council meeting. I hope everyone had a very nice summer break and welcome back. It was great to see many of you during the summer months at different events or just in the neighborhood. Brooklyn's Picnic in the Park, sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, was a huge success, as it brought residents of Brooklyn's community together, including small business owners, council members, community leaders, school board members, and their families and friends. This fun-filled event included a variety of food trucks, live music, games, and activities for all ages, and a spectacular fireworks display to end the evening. So again, thanks to all who came out. I would also like to mention that there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony at the landfill by the Brooklyn Service Garage September 13th at 10 a.m. for the long anticipated solar panel project. This event is open to the public. I would like to thank all the residents who have supported this one-of-a-kind opportunity for our great community and invite you to this event. Hope to see you there. I have a signed petition from the residents of Rodone Road whose property backs into Hurricane Alley Field who are requesting the removal of the unsightly mounds of dirt that were removed from the demolition of Rodone Elementary School. These residents were told back then that it would be taken care of, and yet years later, the mounds still remain. Not only is this unsightly, but dangerous as children are playing on those mounds. I have spoken with School Superintendent Mark Lykoff and to Mayor Katie Gallagher as to the ongoing talks between the city and the school board regarding the issue of the removal of these dirt mounds. I'm asking the mayor, school superintendent, and the Brooklyn School Board to work together in reaching a fair resolution on the removal of these dirt mounds. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up is Mrs. Politsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Well, good evening, and I'd like to welcome Tom, just Tom. It's easier for me to do that. Glad to have you on board. Right. I hope everyone had a great summer. It was too hot for me, but my tomato plants loved it. The weather was perfect for the picnic in the park, and thanks to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event. The bands, the games, the food were all great, but the fireworks that evening were the best of all. My thanks to Mr. Bob Hennings for his expertise in firing them off. Unfortunately, the band that was scheduled for September 5th was rained out. I stopped by and spoke to them as they were packing up. They are a 50s rockabilly band, and I was hoping we could be able to reschedule them before the season's end. As I talked to Mrs. McGinty at the finance meeting, she told me she is working on that, and she will hopefully be able to schedule them before the season is over. I am going to be redundant about the Shunpike sale because I'm one of 6 quilters there. And the quilt that they are raffling off this year is absolutely fantastic. The quilt tickets are 6 for $5, and if you went to Amish country, you'd probably pay $800 for that quilt. So anybody interested in purchasing tickets, let me know. I'll get some tickets for you, and you can end up buying a few. Our senior center will also hold an indoor garage sale on that same day, so there's a little competition there, but I'm sure there's enough people for both of those events. 9/11, I forgot about it too with everything going on. I haven't been to the memorial in New York, but many years back, probably 2 to 3 years after the event, I was with a church group and we stopped at Shanksville when it was just a mound of dirt with a fence and different odds and ends there to remind you of the people. If you've never been to either one of those places, you need to go because I can't explain the feeling and how you feel the presence of those people that gave their lives for us. And think about that too. Congratulations to Mr. Palladori. I didn't know him, but I knew his son-in-law well. And just hearing Joe talk about his father-in-law at times, I'm sure he was a wonderful man. And those boys, I tell you, there are good children out there. We only hear about the bad ones. We never hear about the good ones. And the police officers that need our support. Thank you very much, young men, for what you've done. And I guess that ends my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Politsky. Well, I first want to tell Mrs. Belbeer, please don't start talking about snow already. All right, no, she is right. It is hard to believe that the summer is over and snow will be upon us. Winter is not even close to my favorite season, but it is upon us here. And I just want to say Mr. Palladori is a genuinely kind man. And that sort of kindness is lacking in our society today. And so these young men that were here are wonderful young men, and would not be surprised if one of them ends up being as kind as Mr. Palladori is, and so I just wanted to point that out. Talking about 9/11, Mrs. Politsky, you mentioned the Shanksville Memorial. I've actually been there several times. I was just there last year, and I'll actually be there again in a few weeks. And they've done a lot since the last time you were there. It's an absolutely beautiful memorial. It just opened up, or will open up tomorrow, is the Tower of the Bells. That right at the entrance there's a bell out there for every single person that gave their lives there. If you go inside the memorial itself, they actually have recorded phone calls of people calling from the plane, leaving voicemail messages for their loved ones. And we live in such a divided country today, and we forget about things so quickly, but just hearing those people's voices really puts everything back into perspective. And so thank you for that reminder of those of you that spoke about that tonight. I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you tonight. I really can't believe that I even have to do this, but I just feel that I have to. I first want to say that the last couple of days here in the city of Brooklyn have been very unfortunate and are sad days. What we should be discussing tonight are many of the things that members here on council have mentioned. Our first night back from summer recess, wonderful things happening in Brooklyn throughout the summer. The picnic in the park has already been mentioned. Concerts in the park. The wonderful recreational activities. I spoke with Ms. McGinty just prior to talking about the dog swim at the park, and there were 25 dogs that were there swimming in the pool before they drained the water and painted the pool. All right, so that's a cool event. The renovation and opening of Aldi. I felt like it was closed for a year. It was only closed for a month or so. We shop there quite often. The building of Menards, which is going up rapidly. The beginning phases of construction once again at the old AG property. The hiring of our new finance director, Brooklyn Point. As Mr. Tansky just mentioned, the landfill, solar panels. The fact that our city's housing values are on the rise. They're on an average, they've increased by 13.5% here in the city of Brooklyn. Zillow, which is an online retail site, ranks the housing market in Brooklyn as, quote, very hot. It has been a great summer for the city of Brooklyn. Unfortunately, on Friday night, News Channel 5 ran a story regarding construction permit fees that the school paid when constructing new elementary and middle school. It amazed me the number of half-truths and outright lies that could be squeezed into a 2-minute story. It was pretty incredible. I have a whole list of items that I was going to read here, but I'm just going to hit on the highlights. And it's important that the residents of the city understand these things. Number one, the construction project was started and completed during a completely different administration on council on the city side, different administration, different council on the city side. On the school side, different superintendent, different treasurer, different school board. Now, there were some council and school members that were the same, but they were under completely different administrations. These permits in question, the report made it seem like it was just recent. It was 4 years ago that this was talked about. According to a school board member that I spoke with personally, the city actually reduced the amount of the permit fees that were actually required. Those fees could have reached well over $200,000, but according to him, were reduced. Permit fees are a part of every single new construction project in this city. If you don't believe me, ask Mr. Kalsar. He deals with this on a daily basis. If the current school board asked for those fees to be waived, it never reached city council or the city administration. Never came to my desk or to the mayor's desk. The fees were not in addition to the cost of construction. These fees were built into the bond issue that was passed by the residents of this city. At the time of the construction and these permits, there was no outcry that I heard of anyone in the city that I'm aware of return of these fees or these fees to be waived. These are the facts of the case in the situation. I will endeavor to try to correct some of the half-truths that were mentioned in this piece. The fees were actually, 3 different numbers were actually given in the piece for the fees. The highest amount was $200,000. The actual amount was right around $183,000, $5,000 of which went to the state. A different part of the segment mentioned $19,000 in fees that the city collected in restoration of the stadium. That is correct. The school did, those fees were paid, but those fees were built into the insurance claim when the insurance claim was filed. Comparing the school's financial condition 5 years ago or 4 years ago when the fees were assessed is a ridiculous comparison. At the time of these permits being pulled, the school had just passed, the city had just passed a $5 million emergency operating levy expense, including along with the bond issue that built the school. By their own admission, when asking for this emergency levy, once it was passed, the school was not in, quote, financial straits, as was mentioned in this article. At that time, they were not. As they find themselves today, they are in difficult times today. But it was during those times that these permits were pulled. It was also mentioned that if this levy does not pass, that people would, quote, lose their jobs and programs would be cut. It was also said that the city took a, quote, lion's share of that money. Well, programs may be cut, I don't know, that's not my call. However, saying that the city took a lion's share of that is actually laughable. The city has taken $0 of operating money from the school. No program would have been cut, added, or enhanced with permit fee money. That money could not have been used for that purpose. Even if it could, which it can't, but even if it could, the city at most received $200,000 in permit fee money. I'm using the largest amount that was stated in the article. That $200,000 equates to 0.8% of the construction funds. Less than 1% of these funds. As a comparison, those fees equate to about 5 times the football stadium, the field turf cost about 5 times that amount of money. Because of this article, I am calling for a total and complete apology by the school board, by the school superintendent. I also expect the record to be made straight by News Channel 5. And even as disturbing as all those things is, the thing that I found most alarming was that in the article it was stated that school board members, plural, asked the city to refund the money. This is an outright lie. I am the chairman of the finance committee. I serve as the council president for this council. Since council is the only body in this city that can authorize such a request, the request would have been made and it would have gone through the finance committee and council. Not one single school board member, nor the superintendent, has said one word to me about refunding any permit fees. In fact, I reached out to 2 different school board members after this piece ran. One said that he had made no such comment to the reporter. The other school board member ended the call abruptly, promising to call me back, and never did. That was 3 days ago. No board member has made such a request to the mayor either. Since the mayor and city council must authorize all financial expenditures, then we would be the ones to ask. No such document exists by any school member requesting the return of these fees. Again, this is just patently false. And it truly is a shame coming from the school board that is supposed to be representing our school. It really is a shame. I wish, honestly, that it ended there. But unfortunately, as with most lies, it only got bigger. And, you know, as I sit and contemplate this, it amazes me. It just seems today that everyone is so addicted to anger. They're so addicted to outrage that we have to be outraged about something all the time. A gentleman that was featured in this report has requested all building permits for the construction of Heritage Christian School by Cleveland Baptist Church. This is the ministry that I have had the privilege of serving in for the last 13 years. Last week, he requested all of the permits by CBC over the past 5 years, which is completely legal. All of the permits are public knowledge. I have no problem with that. The church has paid and pulled permit fees for several signs, both permanent and temporary, along with some updating of construction on the front of our current church building. I have all that information, as does the gentleman that requested this. Unfortunately, a Facebook post was posted the other night that said, and I quote, "I have submitted more public records to the city for permits that Cleveland Baptist Church was required to pull and pay for dealing with the construction of their school. I have reviewed the records from the past 5 years and no permits were pulled. The council president is the business manager for the church. Possible conflict? We shall see." I normally couldn't care less what people post on Facebook or social media. Most of the residents don't care about it either. And I find it's usually filled with, honestly, nonsense. However, since this gentleman has now decided to bring my school and my church into his lies, I would like to correct the record, and some might say correct the libel. He said, quote, that no permits were pulled or fees paid in the past 5 years. That is totally false. I have all the records sitting right here with me. There were actually a total of 10 permit fees paid by our church in the time that the request was mentioned. There was one thing that was correct. There was no new permanent construction fees for that school building in the last 5 years. That is correct. A simple phone call to me could have easily stated this. No such phone call came. No new construction permits exist in the last 5 years because the construction of our school took place when George Bush, the father, was in the White House. I was in 5th grade living in Pennsylvania. Construction permits were pulled in 1990, 28 years ago. The school building opened in 1993. To suggest a conflict of interest and to libel my church's name because the facts were just simply not sought after is unacceptable. I fully expect a complete and total apology in writing to the Cleveland Baptist Church. My church has been a part of this community since 1962. It has been a wonderful neighbor in Brooklyn. And since the topic tonight is talking about school finances, our church has paid thousands of dollars in property taxes to the Brooklyn City Schools in the past 56 years. No one should be besmirching the reputation of a church, its members, many of whom are tax-paying Brooklyn residents, or Heritage Christian School for any reason. As with any business, church, or household in Brooklyn, what people do on their property is their own business. It's called private property for a reason. I will not discuss any further accusations against Cleveland Baptist Church in future meetings. What my church has done or is currently doing is not the business of this gentleman and has nothing to do with the new construction permit fees paid by Brooklyn Schools or any city business. I very much hesitated to bring this up tonight, but I feel like I needed to set the record straight. Again, suggesting conflict of interest is simply a personal attack on me, which I don't really care. However, it's a personal attack on my church and has nothing to do with the good and well for the city of Brooklyn. So in conclusion, I call for the school board, the school superintendent, and this gentleman to all make formal apologies for misleading statements, outright lies, and some would argue libel communication. I also believe that News Channel 5 owes the residents of this city an apology as well. And that concludes my report. This time we'll move on to the report of the mayor.
Excuse me, Mr. Van Kirk?
Yes.
Since you brought this topic up, may I just add something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I guess I would just like to add to my recollection, what brought this up back then was the type of contract that the schools entered into was, I don't know if they officially called it a turnkey project, but that's basically what it was, which meant that they submitted a bid and they basically had to deliver the project for that amount of money no matter what. So the contractor wrongly made the assumption that the city would be waiving the permit fees because they had heard of a couple other cities who had done that. So that's how it got brought to the city to consider waiving or reducing the permit fees. And I know there was a discussion about it. Some of us did ask the administration to look into it. For example, you know, is this something a lot of cities were doing? I think it came out at the time that there were a couple cities who had done it, but there were also quite a number of cities who had not. I guess what I would say is, you know, at the time the city was in a very different financial situation than we're in today. Also, we had the cloud of American Greetings leaving, hanging over us. And I know that part of the discussion was also the number of personnel that we would have to have over there, making all the necessary inspections at every point in time during the construction. So, you know, I know that there was a discussion about it, and at the end of the day, the administration did decide not to waive it. I do believe there was some reduction. I don't remember exactly what it was, but just to add, you know, to this, that's how the situation was brought to our attention back when the project was being constructed. Thank you.
Just to further clarify, when you talk about the administration, you're talking about the previous administration of when this project was handled, not the current
Yes,
administration.
so we were all, anyone who was on council was in on that particular discussion. We were made aware of it. I know there was a, you know, that we really wanted to look into it, you know, not just say no right off the bat, but look into it, just what I said, that, you know, is this something that other cities had done? You know, how much money are we talking about? So that's my recollection from that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You know, I had my report written in a different order, but since we're talking about the school construction, I'm just going to go right into that before I talk about the positive things. Just to add on to what Kathy mentioned, there's one specific thing I'd like to add since I was council president at the time. I used to meet with former Mayor Richard Valpier to get weekly updates, and then I would compile those updates and then send them out to City Council. So I did a search of those records to see what that conversation was back then. And verbatim, the message I sent out to the City Council at the time was, school construction fees for the city or for the school will be around $180,000. They are requesting a break on these fees. Nothing was agreed yet. Ed Fitzgerald, who was the former building commissioner, said he participated in 6 new school projects in Lakewood, and the school did not request a break. The mayor said he is open to working on a deal, though. And so that's really one of the few pieces of communication regarding this topic. I think that, you know, what the recollection is, Rich did work out a deal, but as Kathy stated, this was the communication back to council during that time. I had a lot more written tonight about the school construction fees, but I decided I'm just going to kind of keep it brief. I want to make it clear that the city was never asked for reimbursement for these building permit fees charged to the school in 2014 for their construction while I've been mayor. And I welcome anyone who has proof of anything otherwise to bring it to my attention, because I've never seen that document. It also been brought to my attention that there are individuals out there saying that Cleveland Baptist Church fees have been waived in my administration. I can tell you that is not correct. I feel that this city council and my administration has made great strides in building a positive joint relationship with the school for the mutual benefit of both entities, but most importantly, for the benefit of the residents and children in our community. My message from day one in this seat was to keep moving forward, because we can't change the past. And I fear that Friday's news story created a possible setback, and it's going to take a little time to heal with some of the insinuations and comments made and not failing to speak the whole truth. But I think the residents in this community should and do expect leadership from all of their elected officials. And I wouldn't be doing my job as mayor if that's not what I was looking at the best interest of our community. So I think we need to move past this. I think we need to figure out a way to work together. And hopefully that can happen. And that relationship has not been tarnished. I for one, know that my job is to you, the residents, and that's what we need to be doing, is looking out the best interest for everybody. On to the positive things. I just want to say a bunch of thank yous to my staff, the City Council, the Chamber of Commerce, and mostly the residents who all came out to support some of the activities over the summer, such as Picnic in the Park, or the concerts, the doggy swim, as everybody's already mentioned. It's really been a terrific summer for our community. Next, I'd like to give a little update on the county reappraisal. For those who would like to dispute the increases, they have pushed back that dispute date to this Friday. We have posted all this information on the city's website, on the city's Facebook. We pushed out an alert on to all of our online newsletter folks. So if that's what you're interested in, please check out that date. They said this is not going to be the last date where you will have to challenge the fees. They will have another round in a few months from now. Brooklyn's residential real estate on average was a 13.5% increase between the commercial and real estate. 13% on the residential side, and then 4.4% on the commercial side, for an increase that was actually more than the county average. The common questions I hear from residents: what's this mean for your taxes? Will this entire increase reflect on your payments? Well, the increase in your taxes, however, will only be based on the increase of the assessed valuation, not the market value. Once you take that assessed valuation, the increase will only apply to that millage not impacted by House 20. So you will not see an entire increase for that. So consequently, what this means for the city of Brooklyn, as far as our revenue, we will see about $135,000 in new revenue from the real estate taxes, and the school will see about $105,000 per year in new revenue. Some other great things that happened over the summer is we hired a new finance director, as everyone said, Tom, and I expect him to be a tremendous asset to our community. We also employed one of our own Brooklyn students, Rihanna Varian. She was an intern in our mayor's court, and she was so helpful, and I cannot say how smart this girl was and how impressed I was on her work ethic and her desire to learn. And I think she is just so enthralled with that mayor's court and learning all about it that she now wants to check out the police department. She may be even changing her major. She's already doing college classes while she's a Brooklyn student. So I'm just telling you, we have some definitely bright kids in our school. And we finally begun our kickoff stages with our master plan process. So you've seen this posted. This will be in our printed newsletter you should be receiving in the next week or so. We are taking applications for residents who are interested in being part of the steering committee. We'll close it on October 1st. It's available online. You can get a printout. And I really have to be limited at the direction of the County Planning Commission on how many residents participate, but I can have subcommittees, and I will keep pushing this information out because we want as many residents as possible as part of this process. We want this end document to reflect what the residents of this community want at the end of the day, also some of the needs that we on the city side know that we have to tackle over the next few years, like our aging infrastructure. And that is it. So concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move on to director's reports. We begin this evening with our rec manager, Ms. McGinty.
Good evening. We are currently taking registration for Learn to Skate and Learn to Swim. The cost for the Learn to Skate is $50 plus a $17 USFS fee, and the cost for Learn to Swim is $40. Our Tuesday night yoga will be returning starting September 18th at 7 p.m. with Orva. Update on the indoor pool construction. The indoor pool has been sandblasted and painted, and the removal of the sand filters has begun. At this time, our anticipated date of reopening the indoor pool is October 1st. The ice is down, and the rink is set to open starting September 12th. That concludes my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, first report of his time here in Brooklyn, Mr. Vergoose.
Thank you very much, Council President. Thank you for all the warm words by City Council tonight. I truly appreciate it. I truly look forward to my time here, and I've enjoyed my first 3 weeks here. It's been very quick and very fast and very good. Learning a lot and continuing to learn. Just to touch up on Resolution 2018-6 to authorize the necessary tax levies, I do want to say that the proposed rates for 2019 are the same as the current levies and the levies that have been previously enacted, so there are no change in the rate structure on that. And that is my report for tonight.
Thank you, sir. Next up is our fire chief, Chief Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Good evening, council. Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to announce the appointment of firefighter paramedic Gregory Slezak to the Brooklyn Fire Department. He was administered the oath of office Tuesday, August 28th at the Brooklyn Fire Department by Mayor Gallagher with his family in attendance. Prior to being sworn in full-time, Gregory was a part-time firefighter paramedic for the city of Brooklyn for the past 4.5 years. We welcome Gregory on board. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Next up is our law director, Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you this evening, I just want to point out you've got an ordinance, a new ordinance, 2018-74, which would amend a long untouched section of the codified ordinances dealing with a prohibition on panhandling within the parks, and also a prohibition on soliciting and selling things in the parks without prior approval. The American Civil Liberties Union pointed out in a letter to me recently that the prohibition on panhandling, which has existed since 1970, unmodified in our code, violates some First Amendment law that's been handed down more recently than 1970. And I tend to agree. So the ordinance before you makes a simple change. It just eliminates the outright prohibition on panhandling in the parks. Panhandling is a form of protected First Amendment speech. That is, of course, one of the reasons for the existence of the ACLU, to protect American civil liberties. Sometimes we agree with them and sometimes we don't. But in this particular case, I agree with their opinion of our code, this minor part of our code. The Chief Milkey has indicated that this ordinance has not been invoked in his tenure here, either as an officer or the chief. So I don't think we have a problem that has been addressed by this particular code section. It hasn't been used to prosecute anyone. And there are other code sections on point that can be used to prosecute, for example, aggressive panhandling and panhandling from highways, which is sometimes what you see around town. There's, in fact, a statewide prohibition against panhandling from roadways. That's in the Ohio Revised Code. So in any event, I just wanted to bring it to your attention as to the provenance of this particular ordinance before you this evening. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions, either in committee or on the floor in future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Any members of council have any questions regarding that before we move on? Okay, thank you, sir. Next up is our police chief, Chief Milkey.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I'm excited to announce that the Brooklyn Civil Service Commission will be holding a police entry-level test for our patrol officer position. It will be on September 24th at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. All the details are located in the legal notice on our website. Applications are currently being handed out today
or actually this week, from 8 to 4 here at City Hall. I encourage anybody that is interested or knows of anybody that may be interested in that position to read through the legal notice, pick up an application, and take the examination. I also wanted to remind everybody that school is in session. We are out in force enforcing the speed limit in school zones and the right turns on red, so be aware of that. And I wanted to thank all the council people for their thoughts on 9/11. I know I have a personal story from being on the SWAT team at that time and responding out to the city of Brook Park because of Flight 93 turning around. They believed they were returning to Cleveland to land, and we had to go out and wait with the Cleveland SWAT team. And I know Chief Paul has a personal story too. So it's one of those days, like the JFK assassination, you're never going to forget where you were. And I know I'll take it to my grave. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Rancourt, can you be recognized?
Yes.
Chief Melky, would you mind talking about Alex a little bit in his retirement? I know he didn't want to be recognized tonight, but
So unfortunately, we lost a qualified detective this past summer to retirement, Alex Zimblaskis. He was a 9-year veteran of the Cleveland Police Department when he came here to work for the Brooklyn Police Department. He served us well for 16 years in various capacities, one being the union steward. And I found him very valuable on that front. But Alex did fine work as a patrol officer on midnights for a long time, and eventually moved to the Detective Bureau, where he served us tremendously as a juvenile detective. And unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to him on September 7th. But he has taken up a new career with the railroad, and he's excited to start that. So, and if you knew Alex well, he's not getting his butt up here to take any kind of proclamation. So, we lost him. So, good luck to Alex Zimblaskis.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll now move on with our legislation for this evening. The first item that we have is an acceptance of a grant from Walmart. I have a letter from our fire chief, Mayor Gallagher, and City Council. I respectfully request authorization to apply for a grant from Walmart's Community Grant Program. This grant will be used to purchase life-saving smoke detectors for citizens of our community, as well as the fire safety literature for the Fire Prevention Bureau. This grant does not require matching funds from the City of Brooklyn. Should you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And again, that comes from our fire chief.
Move to authorize the application for the grant.
Second.
To approve, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. The next, first we have 2 liquor permits this evening. We'll take them separately. The first one is for, I'm just going to say Sam's Bar. All right, 4295 Tiedemann Road, Brooklyn, Ohio, 44144. This is the gas station that's on the corner of Memphis and Tiedemann, and the chief has no objection.
Move for a position of no objection.
Second.
For no objection, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Abstain. And in our council rules were to tell people why we abstain. I abstain from all issues when dealing with alcohol. Alcohol is against my faith, my religion, so I do not participate in such agenda items. The next one is another one for Bid-Off Beverage, and it looks like, is this a transfer? Chief, is this a transfer to J, or actually to Jan Beer? It's a transfer, okay. All right, transfer, and that is for Bid-Off Beverage at 6980 Bid-Off Road, and again, the chief has no objection.
Move for a position of no objection.
Second.
For no objection, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Abstain. Then our last authorization this evening is for a new wall sign purchase and installation. And I mentioned this in my finance report, but this sign will go at the RTA turnaround at the corner of Bid-Off and Tiedemann. And the total cost for this sign is $18,040.
Move to authorize the expenditure.
Second.
To approve, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. Ordinance 2018-52 is on second reading. to amend Section 96712 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn entitled Forestry Program Orders. Up for third reading and adoption this evening is Ordinance 2018-65, authorizing the mayor to enter into a new member participation agreement with Chagrin Valley Dispatch Council and authorizing the city to become a member of such council. Do any members of council have any comments or questions?
Move to adopt.
Second.
To adopt, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes. The following two are on second reading. Ordinance 2018-66, authorizing the mayor of the city of Brooklyn to enter into a contract with the city of Cleveland for the use of the Ridge Road Transfer Station for the disposal of solid waste. Ordinance 2018-67, declaring the improvement of certain real property to be a public purpose pursuant to revised code section 5709.40B, declaring such improvement to be exempt from real property taxation, designating public infrastructure improvements to be made that will directly benefit such property, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, designating a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments, and authorizing the compensation payments to the Brooklyn City School District. And this was the item that Mr. Udrist discussed at the beginning of our meeting, and this is on second reading. Under new business this evening, all of these will be on first reading. Resolution 2018-6, accepting the rates and amounts as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the council fiscal officer. Ordinance 2018-73, authorizing the purchase of one 2019 Labrie drop frame body with helping hand automated arm mounted on a new Freightliner model M2 cab and chassis from Best Equipment in the amount of $295,670 as part of the National Joint Powers Alliance Cooperative. Ordinance 2018-74, amending Section 53921 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn to eliminate an outright prohibition of begging in parks and playgrounds. This is the ordinance that Mr. Butler just explained. Then lastly is Ordinance 2018-75, authorizing an amended job retention and creation grant agreement with Inogen Incorporated. That concludes our agenda this evening. Is anyone on council or the administration have anything to add? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed evening.